Folks, getting ready for a build. You guys will see coming out this week. I'm going to do a 3090 and some 6600 XTs. That's finally going to get built. But we will get a few people in here and we will start. We're going to talk about some of the news that happened this week and if and why any of that matters in the grand scheme of things. It definitely will have an impact. It definitely has an impact. We've seen some of the impact, but what in the grand scheme of things does one country matter? And will they just concede and follow back into, the space eventually? We're going to talk inertia. We're going to talk things that are inevitabilities. What's up, Serpent X? You may hear random yelling in the background. That is probably my kid taking out people on a, what is that? What's she playing? Is that Fortnite? She's playing Fortnite. So don't mind that. It happens. It's a Sunday. Hope you guys had a good time with your families and kids. Sometimes when I'm streaming, I ask them, hey, can you keep it down? I mean, it's a Sunday. It's a fun day. We'll just deal with any audio that comes over this way. You guys find somebody to run the farm. I'm actually going to have a conversation with BitCap Group. That was who was looking for the person for their farm. It was not for our farm. But we did a video for them to help them find somebody. So let's talk China. Let's talk what the collapsing of rights when it comes to cryptocurrencies, and does that affect this space when it comes to a overall? Like, does that matter for the people in Europe and the U.S. and Canada, in South America, in Central America, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia? Does it matter? They're a participant, and they're choosing not to participate, or at least they're choosing to enforce a rule to allow many of people to not be able to participate. What's the inertia of something like that cause to an upcoming young generation that's going to be asking, what's up with that, bro? So there's some history to be understood. I think that will right a lot of the wrongs that happen there. I think it literally is inertia. That's the word of the night. I'm going to say it many times. And humans are insanely good at over the long haul and the time to try to make things right and get better and improve and iterate and find systems that are crap and get that fixed. So I think that, does it impact? I was like, what is that thing flying up? I think it's just the alert box of people coming up. You just can't see it. It's so small. Let's see here. It's so small. There we go. There we go. We got a nice little alert there. We're going to set that over here. A lot of followers coming in. We're going to put that over here. I thought it was a reflection in that glass, but it was coming up. A lot of people subscribing and following. New followers coming out though. A lot coming in. I'm liking all the follows, my dudes. So we're gonna look at a lot of your guys' comments too tonight. So I want to talk to I've had a couple good conversations over this weekend around this exact subject, where people were concerned that it started looking like Bitcoin was starting to recover. It got all the way back up to 50, and then we saw it receding back to 41,000. And people are like, this is just like ebb and flow of like information, then China FUD versus, what's going on. How does this impact the bottom line? There's definitely, if you're mining ETH, you're seeing it also, ETH being right around $3,000 right now. And, the miners being impacted based on the burn. And then like, the going isn't as good as it's been. And so when things start running sideways for a little bit, people get discouraged. And what I usually do is I look at, it's like a gap analysis. Like, what am I looking at, and what's the improvements that are happening? What is the positive momentum in this space from a growth standpoint? And is it going to cause a positive momentum in the space and participation, new development, all of that sorts of thing? I think this keeps just looping the same person. I'm gonna have to disable this alert. Well, I think it's like a hack thing. Like if it's the same person, they can just keep following, unfollowing to make the alert box go up. I'm gonna see if it comes up again. It's all the same person. That's number 5. It's hilarious, actually. Let's see if another one comes up. F8. I'm getting follow spammed by the same series bot. It's hilarious, actually. What I'm going to do is turn off the alert box for right now, since we're getting the follow spam. All right. That's part of the issue with having follows coming up on like any of these social media platforms. Somebody can just get your alert spam. Someone bought you some followers. Maybe. Those all come right off. That's what sucks. Is like people, like there's nothing you can do if people, I had somebody do that to me on Twitter one time. Like one time I log onto Twitter, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. And I had like 50,000 followers or something. I was like, what in the hell happened? And it was like somebody had spam followed me. And then Twitter came back in like the next week and then like deleted all of them. So it was like, they must have did that to a handful of people. But BBT stream, best thing on Sunday after NFL Red Zone. There you go, my dude. I didn't get a chance to watch any football today. I'm kind of glad because I'm a Chiefs fan. Don't hate me, and don't hate. There's a lot of teams out there to choose from. Everybody has their reasons and rationale why they like certain teams. I was around Kansas City for a long time of my life, and I got to know some of the folks that were on the Kansas City Chiefs when I lived there and worked for Anheuser-Busch. So I get to meet some pretty cool people, Dick Vermeil and Tony Gonzalez and all those dudes. So I became a Chiefs fan because I was around them. So they got their second loss. So they're 1-2. That is three turnovers in the first half, 2 of them by Edwards-Helaire. So that's what happens, bro. So yeah, that's Sunday is kind of fun day. Sundays usually are news, and the news right now prevalent is the China FUD. It's not even so much China FUD. I think China's really trying to lock things down. I think that there's probably even more capital trying to come out, or capital that they're just trying to convert. But it could suppress the market a lot farther than it is. If that truly is the case, where you have massive amounts of cryptocurrencies stored up, a lot of Chinese miners couldn't necessarily sell all their crypto because of the various rules that they had. So not being able to turn that into liquid because of their current transaction state that they're in, where they're trying to ban these activities, it could cause additional suppressions in the network. But what I'm looking at is the more bullish case that's going on right now. We got a lot of legislative discussions going on in the U.S. Love them or hate them when it comes to Gensler looking at certain things. We got a lot of states that are looking at shoring up and securing their position to be good players in the crypto space and be participants. You got a few cities trying a couple different things. I know the Miami coin's a thing. I haven't went into it. But like seeing opportunists in the US, seeing people in Central America, seeing folks in South America, hearing a lot of the developments that are going on in Europe when it comes to cryptocurrency. These are the positive things I look at. I look at like the world is moving forward on cryptocurrency, the fundamental setup and design of cryptocurrencies in general, that people just don't, the average person that's on the outside and doesn't take the time to learn about cryptocurrencies just kind of shoots over the limited media version of what cryptocurrency is when it comes like, oh, it's using too much energy, this fake internet money. I was just watching Paul's Hardware as an example, big crypto, or like not really into crypto at all. He's a PC gamer channel. It's definitely hurt his bottom line when it comes to like graphics cards and stuff. So he's like rejoicing that China's banning it and following that mantra that maybe we'll get cheaper graphics cards and that sort of thing, but not understanding cryptocurrency and its benefits when it comes to streamlining some processes and what the sky the limit is. It's a Web3 world moving into crypto. So you're having NFTs. We're going to see games that are going to extend past, your current big titles, having some kind of symbolic connection to an NFT, being able to trade game assets in between games. You look at the future state of that, where you'll be able to have, assets that transcend, their original game to where you can then import those into other games. And you have this cool cross game kind of setup with your assets, because now you've decoupled it from a company's database to a cryptocurrency blockchain network that has, supply limitations on whatever that asset class is. You could see the coding in there if they make it like a functional strict asset amount. That transition to transparency is going to open up more doors to other business processes that say, well, if the games are doing it this way, can we do other things this way? A lot of the early 2017 discussions when it came to cryptocurrency in general, and people are talking blockchain, not cryptocurrency. What they were trying to do is essentially what's happening with NFTs. They were trying to take assets, they were trying to take, business processes and then wrap those into a canonical way that is transparent with participants. So if you have a normal business system that's doing stuff like in the background, if it's order entry, if it's order to cash, if it's procure to pay, all these things that make the minutia of a company function, most of those things are setting behind a firewall inside of a company's databases. And if they're interacting with third parties, they have to make all these like interface agreements and stuff. There's just a lot of work behind all that to make sure the data transactions standpoint. If you could start to transition some of those processes to where you don't have to have those large data centers, you can have an agreement on the way a particular form or a function works and it's on crypto. You would keep your core data, the customer information, that kind of stuff, credit card information, all the encrypted data that you need to store. You would have the business process just linked on a crypto network as an example there. So you would have all these participants knowing where something's at in a workflow, but not have to have a connection into your corporate database, which means that you have the ability to now tighten up the connections of the way businesses work with each other, preventing less holes and to get to that more secured information that is relevant for that particular customer, in whatever particular database. That's a long way of me saying things are on the positive and the up and up when it comes to the technology stack using these cryptocurrencies that we're looking at every day. The tokens under them to tie why that's important and why do you care is because the tokens that are supporting those particular networks, if we're talking Chainlink, we're talking Atom, if you're talking the Cosmos network that connect cryptocurrency blockchains together, what's relevant on that is that's the fuel that runs those networks, right? So you're needing Atom if you're trying to go in and interoperability between blockchains. If you're trying to go back with like some kind of API data or some kind of Oracle data, you're using Chainlink. If you're using Matic for high-speed transactions on Ethereum, right? So the tokens themselves and the supply run on those particular tokens to get that functionality. When you start looking at the many to many businesses that are out there, so not just the one network to many businesses, it's literally the many crypto networks to the many businesses and how they're going to connect to each other in that functioning way. You start to realize that this stuff has not even scratched the surface, and some of these supplies are limited, right? You have some unlimited inflations, like Ethereum has no upper bound, and there's mechanisms going in place to try to make it semi-deflationary and create a burn on the incentive. I still think that they'll have to tweak certain things once it goes into proof of stake, because if there is a huge amount of use and you have a huge amount of burn, the burn should actually slide down a lot if the transaction fees are on like roll up and layer 2. You won't have a huge amount of stuff being burned because all the transactions will be happening on a second layer. But that being said, you look at all of these things I just said had nothing to do with the China FUD. It had nothing to do with price discovery of where it's going to go up or down, right? Maybe more up than down because you're having people participate a lot more. That's the stuff that I'm looking at. So when people ask me my opinion and I give a very short answer, and it's like, yeah, man, it's not, I just don't see that it's going to go down over the long haul. It isn't because I'm charting anything. I'm not a chart bro. I'm not looking at the mechanicals as much. I do look at the mechanicals. Don't get me wrong. I do look at the mechanicals to see short-term and long-term opportunities. However, the core principle and baseline is more rested in understanding the programs and projects that are out there in the space and understand what they're trying to achieve, and then looking at what their deliveries are and how have they achieved it. Like Polygon Network, really streamlining the ability to participate on using Matic, the token for a lot of these dApps that are now on Matic. You look at Z.Run, you look at these things that I can sit there and do microtransactions for and not have to pay high fees on Ethereum. However, it's using wrapped Ethereum and it's still symbolically connected to Ethereum, which thereby makes me need Ethereum in some way, Ethereum being the base layer. There's a huge amount of opportunity to build things on that. And that has nothing to do with some country coming in and saying you can't use it, because that's the ultimate defense. So if you have participants that are building stuff and that care deeply about building stuff on this much less overhead laden system like crypto can be, if I'm a developer with a small shop, I can do development onto a crypto network and not have to spin up lots of nodes on Azure and some of these other cloud services like I would if I was trying to do a data center build or work with some kind of big monolithic application. Even if it's a microservice application, the amount of overhead that I would have working on those types of services and the licensing that I need to do and all the interface agreement stuff that I need to do with this like larger application set within a company versus doing all this stuff on a crypto network. A lot of the hosting platform and the testing platform and these things that cost real money are open internet protocol, crypto chains. So as long as I take a small position in those coins, I can start deploying onto test networks. I can start deploying to things where I don't have all this overhead. So companies are going to build on these networks, guys. It's been around. It's getting iterations of building. And this includes Bitcoin Lightning Network. This includes, Polygon's network, Ethereum's network, Polkadot's, Cardano's. I mean, the people are going to build on them. And the run on those supplies, because now people will want to acquire at least some position to make their apps function, is utility buying, not YOLO trying to get rich buying. And then circumstantially, those coins go up in price because there's price discovery directly connected to them, because it has to do back down to supply demand. So if a country is taking a linear approach and looking at the one aspect of cryptocurrency, and that's the movement of money only, and they're saying it's no good and we're not going to let our citizens do that, that's effectively what China's doing. They're saying no to the innovation that crypto brings. They're not looking at everything I just said, and there's obviously been not either enough lobbying or there's not enough care factor yet in that space to tell them that they're doing it, because the most of the motive and most of the initiative has been around the movement of capital in and out of China using cryptocurrencies versus moving to like a digital yuan, or going through the typical, financial gateways to disclose what you're doing with your crypto. And, as the title says, does any one country matter in a global cryptocurrency network? Like if one country came out and said, we're banning it, even if the United States, which would not have the capacity to ban it, it would immediately be thrown into court. You would have states fighting it. You would have a lot of folks on a lot of different fronts fighting it through the rules and the adjudication process that the United States holds as strong values when it comes to lawmaking. If the U.S. came out, even if the administration came out and said executive order, we're banning cryptocurrencies, it would immediately get shut down. Because you're affecting so much. I mean, they've came out with executive orders to make everybody more mask, and that certain things happen, and you got states that are either compliant or non-compliant. So the very free living countries have mechanisms to fight it. And yes, it will create all kinds of pain points, and yes, it would have huge amounts of implications on price discovery at that point in time. But I don't think it stops the inertia, or I'm using that word again, of what cryptocurrency is, and all of the young, energetic builders that are building the future of what Web3 is. And Web3, and taking the advantages that it brings compared to the current stack and tech right now. When I go through and I have conversations with people that are trying to understand crypto, and I start talking about all this other ancillary benefits when it comes to, segregating certain activities away from like business tech kind of build stuff, where you could have co-location of certain activities on a cryptocurrency chain, where you're doing like your VNVs, your verification validation steps, that are connected to maybe an internal business process, but you're just using event triggers on a cryptocurrency blockchain. It becomes like a very powerful network. And that network effect being that you don't have to create all these other interface agreements. Your participation is instant. If you right now watching this video have no idea what we're talking about, and you're like, dude, I thought crypto was just for memes and pictures and expensive JPEGs, and that, the fact that you can right now go download a wallet and create a wallet address, and you had to give no information, and you have immediate access to one of the world's most powerful financial systems instantly, and it doesn't matter what country you're in. Just those words, those sound bites. No matter what country you're in, including China, you'd be breaking the law right now in China, but no matter what country you're in, you have access to a global financial network. That's liberating for many peoples that are suppressed. And one country making a decision on how they're going to approach it just does put them back a few steps on the progress that they could be making internally too, right? That they could have, if it's a government approaching it, if it's the citizens, and even a partial semi-free market. I mean, China has had a lot of growth, but somebody can come and kick in your door and then stop your operation. I mean, that's not freedom of any sort. That's, totalitarianism. And that's unfortunate, but I think that the people eventually will get it heard that that's what they want. And maybe that changes the government. Who knows? That's a hard one. I mean, no major modern government superpower has been overthrown yet or any sort, but like China keeps banning stuff. We'll see what happens. I mean, that's going to piss off enough people. You might have some interesting effects from that. You start shutting things down. I thought like when they banned kids playing video games is going to cause an uprising, but we'll see. The blockchains equals NFTs equal freedom. I like that. Hey man, like you start tying in when not just funny JPEGs that are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you start having some other connected state of things that you care about, connected to if it's an artist or it's a participant that you wanted to have something from, like the power of having like Twitter and NFTs, and you know the address that the person's creating the NFT from is that person. I think what happens is you get a devaluation if it wasn't a part of the person. Like if it's an artist that's making something and you know that, hey, that's who made it, and they have signing control of that address, then that's part of the allure of an NFT, right? So it's not that it was just a handler or it was somebody else, it was that person. That's part of the allure of Twitter. Like I never get people over Twitter. Like, why do you like Twitter? It's like, well, I don't know. Like I've talked to, known and famous people, sports people directly. Like dudes like walking in somewhere and just like, hey bro, what's up? Like people contact me a lot on DM messages. Checkmarked, verified, people that are on TV, see a video, looking up crypto, maybe find my video and just ask me a quick question. Not very many platforms allow you to do that. Now, from a communication, that makes Twitter very powerful, but it's still a centralized company. Decentralized versions of that, decentralized versions of social media, key content that you care about, like if it is music, if it is some kind of piece of art or something that they tailor made for you, and then that you can canonically show and like atomically, not canonically would be in time order, but that you could see from an atomic standpoint, meaning they have their private key signed a message that it's created and minted a NFT that then was ranked from their address to you. That provides some level of value to maybe you as a person if you wanted that from that person. And then that out there for the rest of its existence is there as a fact from that person. So it comes back down to like, you get something from a company, you're reliant on that company of saying that was the only thing that they produce, or there was only so many. So I think the technology will win in this, and any one country, any one decision making is not going to be the decider of this crypto. So China FUD just unfortunately creates the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's what the FUD means, and that's what it is. I'm going to take a few questions. I've been going for 28 minutes here. 116 people on. What's up, my dudes? Gabo says proof of work will always be there. I think proof of work will always be there. Of course it will. Bitcoin, the race to efficiency, the race to energy, if it's fusion, if it's renewable energies, become the key part of energy creation, and not, if everything went renewable, let's just go to the bottom line. If everything ended up going renewable and we can create all the electricity we'd ever need across the entire planet, this entire ESG conversation would be completely pointless. Bitcoin takes the initiative and holds the torch to race to the best possible price and efficiency in the long tail of an operation, which means that Bitcoin's monetary growth and value thereby push the design and the implementation of some of these resources to get them moved to the most renewable source possible, because you're looking at the long tail of it. Extracting material out of the earth and burning it up isn't the long tail of that. We all know that sucks, and isn't, while it was an age of time that it was a thing, it is a decreasing age in time as we start to switch. So Bitcoin's focus being pushed on to ESG concerns are possibly accelerating maybe some of that drive to spend money a little more efficiently. Bitcoin and any of the proof of work currencies, though, look for the cheapest electricity first, right? So that's what, that is the financial driver for those activities. That drive to renewable is becoming a stronger and a faster push to the edge of moving that into a fully renewable space. And then, where's that ESG comment go then? If most of the mining ends up pivoting to where it will be first because the cheapest electricity will be renewable, and all Bitcoins are mined renewable, then that conversation's done, and then we'll be looking at hair dryers, wondering why people in houses that only can get coal power, that, hey, you need to stop using your hair dryer type of thing. So the argument's kind of flawed by nature. It needs to come up a stack and look at from an energy profile standpoint. Why is everything that uses energy, anything that consumes energy, should be more the discussion. Like if we have this big of a footprint, what is the overall movement to full renewable, not just singling out Bitcoin, because it just is a energy user. And that's when I hear comments and I see people debate about it on the stage, I'm just like, what, dude? Like, it's overarching energy use. Like, just there should be a push to go where it's less. The singling out one particular entity is a complete waste of time. I'm reading through some of your guys' comments here to see. I do read all your guys' comments, by the way. So, like, I usually go back if we're making like timestamps and stuff, and I read through and I'll try to respond to stuff. So, if you ever feel like your question was missed or you guys asked a question and I didn't respond to it, if it's a really good question that hasn't been asked before in the channel and it needs to be responded to, sometimes I'll make a post in the comments. So, just remember that. I know that there's a lot of questions on proof of stake. I've had a couple conversations back and forth. We will be expanding the proof of stake discussion and getting some of those questions that I had on the previous video answered. So China is banned, right? Well, China has put a ban forth on Bitcoin exchanging and Bitcoin, or actually cryptocurrency. I think they were more broader on that. Now, we haven't seen a huge amount of hash rate come off. We'll be analyzing that this week. There is an update to the mining model that I'm going to be going through with you guys. That might be a live stream. It just depends on how much I can cut into that to a video, but we're going to go through that. We cover all the different cryptocurrencies and the transition to proof of stake, what that would look like for people that are GPU mining. And what this price discovery across some of these coins look like, just to give you guys some data points in that space. Greek Power says Charles Hutchison said he would not develop a vaccine passport with Cardano Tech, but is developing a national ID system where identity can be tied to ownership and status. Isn't that conflicting? Well, they're just conflicting. So, like, there's several implementations on several networks to try to create a national ID system on crypto. So, Civic was trying like a key pass kind of idea with Civic's a sub token on Ethereum. It's ERC 721 or maybe an ERC 1120. I don't know. It's one of those where they created a series of Civic tokens, and it would create this kind of what they would call a nested relational ID. So you would take like a state ID along with a crypto address, along with some other kind of validating picture, along with like a hash of an image of you, and combining all that into like a key pair. And now that is your quote unquote ID signature. And then you would have any companies that would then support Civic would be able to use that as some level of authentication. So you'd have like 4-factor kind of authentication using crypto. There is this premise that leveraging cryptocurrency when it comes to identity, when it becomes a private identity on a crypto network, has an effect of like an adverse effect that you would have with it. While you could create a whole bunch of symmetry and a lot more seamless use from identity standpoint, you get the side effect. Let's just consider this like bad medicine in some way. Like medicine sometimes works very well for certain things, and then it has side effects sometimes. The side effect of having like true identity in a transparent and very open way, saying like if I had my name, Mike Carter, column, BitsBeTrippin, column, some hash key on some database in a company, then the company is protecting my quote unquote PII information of anything, personally identified information. It might be my address, phone number, all that kind of stuff. Having it on a crypto network, you don't want PII information on a crypto network for a range of reasons, but one of them for obviously is privacy. Second, you have this adverse side effect where you can now get kind of a police state without realizing you're in a police state. So if you have the ability to track while like the social media apps track your presence and they tailor the experience to try to send ads to you and have you click on stuff, that data now is sold, and then companies and stuff can pick that up and then target you in specific ways, make sure the media is coming to you. If you take that whole workflow and now have the consistency of a crypto chain where you know somebody hasn't been manipulating the history of it now, you have the ability now to then have a lot more policing and control, especially if you start tying like geolocation data and stuff to that. You effectively own a person with data integrity and immutability and everything else now on top of it. So it's not that part of any database of people along with any supporting data of said person in said database automatically gets a level of scrutiny on it, especially if data is at rest. Meaning like if it's an older database and this is some kind of like history of people, you effectively have like a half truth of like, do you trust that data? Has it been manipulated? You have no history of it if you got it third party, of if there was logs changed or any of that, right? The change in delta of that when it comes to cryptocurrency or doing any of that kind of stuff or any kind of metadata that's tied to a person's identity on a blockchain is now you know that data is good. You know that data is good with regards to tracked events and it hasn't been changed. It could be bad data because you could put bad data in a cryptocurrency blockchain too, where somebody was trying to purposely put bad data in on the tracking of something. But and the reality is the automation of the way certain things would be writing information is it's just writing position or whatever else or any other kind of event history that you've been doing. And if it's tied to your identity and it's tied to your national identity, I mean, I would equivalate it to like, think of if you're in the US and you have a social security number, there's a pretty clean line of how your social security number, if you are the only one using it, and then you're giving it to different banks and entities and stuff, that track history of what was done is in a whole bunch of different databases. The manipulation of that data within a particular one company can be manipulated up and down the stack of like, if you had like a bad debt and they can get rid of it and then that erases it from your social security number. In a crypto blockchain that has a national identity, and if that's the way that countries would then track people, you would have this immutable record that's not, you can't get rid of. And then you would have this append record further on that says, oh, don't worry about that. They took care of everything. Or don't worry about that person, you know, like we don't care that they went to these 5 places. You'd have so much more ability to run heuristics around it. That's all the stuff I'm talking about is the byproduct of it. Why there'd be lots of automation with it. You want all of those things, but with an anonymity in some way, to where now you have what they call a zero proof knowledge proof. So you want the ability to be able to track events and do things and gain automation without the ability to parse the data that makes that up. But you want the ability to validate that the events are true. So you're trying to, that's the innovation of using something like zero knowledge proofs and ZK rollups and these things, is that the history and the data set that got you to the place is obfuscated. However, because of the summation of certain things that the event happened and that you can have confidence in it. Now, I just talked about a lot of data points. Now, most of these things right now are just in crypto networks to where it's just a debit and a credit. And does this account have money money because they started with 50 and they ended up with 25? It's tied to money because that keeps this innovation going because it's monetized and people make, can live off of it and stuff. So this is what I'm talking about. So like I went off on a big long tangent to go back to national identities. First off, Charles Hoskinson doesn't matter. Like he's a key figure in Cardano, but like somebody else could use Cardano tech. Is he saying that you can't use Cardano tech to go do this thing? Or that he is an overall overseer of Cardano, right? I mean, so I don't like when any figurehead of any crypto network makes a statement, especially on a platform. Does that mean it's not open source? Does that mean it's not open participation? I mean, he can talk bad about something that somebody implemented on Cardano, but I don't think he has influence. I mean, he might have influence on everybody on Cardano. Hell, I don't know. I don't use Cardano yet. But like, I would just be worried that why he might not personally go do it on Cardano. Somebody else could try to build it on Cardano because they like the network and it's fast and they're okay with proof of stake and the risks that are associated with proof of stake. But yeah, I mean, any of these networks, anybody could try to build anything. But I think the thing that wins is if you can do it in a way that doesn't, that still has some level of privacy. I'm reading through a couple more things, guys. There's just some good discussions going on there. Serpent's in there in the channel. What's up going on? What's going on, Serpent? All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up. I didn't have. Do we have any questions I missed? Anything on Twitch? Do I believe in the future that blockchains will be used by companies to do other things than coins? Paraphrase that right? Yeah, I think it happens right now. I think that the innovation, when you look at, there's a lot of internal companies doing a lot of internal processes to vetting different business processes of companies doing things that don't necessarily have to do with coins. But you got to understand that having a private blockchain is a complete waste of time. And I think that has been proven out over the last like 4 years. Like it just doesn't make sense. Because you're losing one of the most important principles of having a blockchain, which is having anybody can participate, and then the thing that you build will have some other kind of it's a smart contract, and the things that are within that smart contract will matter to the people that want to interact with it. So your random person that just sends money to it or whatever will essentially go into a dead end, a dead pot. But the people that would build companies around sending data to that smart contract, to have some kind of co-location or interface connected to it, they would be able to leverage this global network without having to have some kind of data center all over the world. They would just broadcast whatever change that they want to make to their very unique contract that has very cryptic business processes built in, probably like different state and status codes that trigger some kind of business workflow event that's all encoded and means nothing to the average person, but is triggering other internal processes to move processes along. So if you had distributed teams working all on the same thing, you could trigger a baseline bump with the completion of one of their processes, never have to communicate anything besides just a flip trigger on one of the crypto networks. And then everybody that's part of that supply chain gets the update and everybody continues to work on knowing that something is done. They could be using all of those triggers versus creating interfaces between each other. They could just all be looking like a view to the crypto blockchain. But whatever cryptocurrency you go to use that as their kind of like inner networking. And now you've gained all these abilities to where you don't have to let other people in through your firewall, and you're all on a view only besides the business process owners that trigger those events, right? Nobody needs to come in. Everybody looks at the same chain, and it's just all the processes are looking at that to get their triggers to move along further. So like that kind of stuff is happening literally right now in development. And yeah, so cryptos and companies doing cool stuff is part of that that confidence that gives the inertia that I know it's going to keep going. All right, my dudes. Yeah, one of these days I might get Charles or one of these guys on, have a good conversation. We want to have a good agenda because I could squirrel like the best of them. All right, my dudes. Like, subscribe. We're trying to hit 100K. It's definitely slowing down because the market's slowing down, but I have faith. We'll keep sending you guys some great content, and we will catch